Hey guys, welcome to Beat the Banks. This is the weekly community training from Beacon DeFi. I'm your host, Chris the DeFi Professor. Happy to be with you today. Hopefully you're having a great week. This is a very interesting day to talk about the concept we're going to talk about today, which is Perps. Just need a quick second to just make sure that I am live and we are talking about everything. We're in all the places we need to be. Yeah, shout out to everybody who's watching on all the different platforms: Den.show, Zora, Farcaster. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is perps. So what people may understand, what they don't understand, they see that there's a lot of perp dexes out there. Whether we're talking about hyperliquid, we're talking about aster, we're talking about lighter, variational, gravity. I could talk about a bunch more: synthetics, GMX, even things like DYDX. Bunch of different markets that are out there specifically for perpetuals, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I have another lovely little presentation for you exactly on what those are. So let me go ahead and put that up right now. And again, this is going to be a little bit more technical than I would have liked. I kind of had Notebook LM kind of generate something based on a lot of the. I actually have we have 3 or 4 different versions of what perps are, and just explaining them to our community. So this is a little bit of a rehash, I guess, I suppose, but it looks, just going through the slides before we came on, I'm like, oh, this is going to be me talking a lot. So just as a heads up, I'm probably not going to talk that long today because I actually injured the side of my tongue. Don't know if that's ever happened to you, but somehow in the middle of the night, I remember I was dreaming. I have a tendency to talk in my sleep every now and then. I bit the side of my tongue so hard it woke me up, and it's a little swollen, and it's hard for me to kind of talk for long stretches. So just as a heads up on that. So talking about perps, this is actually a good example of what a perp is, because a perp, it stands for perpetual. It's technically a synthetic derivative asset. And it's going to be powering the next generation of DeFi through, trading, engineered yield, and frictionless onboarding. I don't know if it's completely frictionless right now, but that's the idea that it's going to be at some point. So let's fun. Let's talk about what perps are. So what they are is at the very core, they are a non-expiring DeFi option. When you have options, if you're familiar with options and those types of trading instruments, generally you're talking about the price speculation on an asset. If you're doing it through options, there's generally a date that's involved with it, right? So if you're looking to figure out what's the price of Tesla going to be in, let's say, 45 days, you're going to have a specific price, and you can of course look through how that may work through various tools with open interest, that type of thing, to figure out how you want to schedule or structure your option. And it does expire by a certain time, right? Either you're going to do a put or a call, and you're in a position where you may have to cover and stuff like that. Well, the difference between perps and options is really not that different, except that perps, they don't have expiry dates. You can hold on to them forever. So you may not necessarily want to do that, but shout out to Arthur Hayes. When he was at BitMEX, they for the most part created the foundation of what is the perp today. And of course, shout out to the team at GMX, which is one of the first big perp dexes that was in the EVM ecosystem, that caused a move to what we call real yield, because it created a fee structure with profits that had really just kind of, I'm not going to say balanced the speculation, but it really gave a way for liquidity providers to do something that we love to do, which is profit off the behavior of other investors. Because at a perp dex, if you're providing liquidity to perp dex, you're technically becoming part of what we call the house, right? If you're going to use the casino mentality. So you're going to profit when the house profits if you're going to be providing liquidity to perp dex. And with all kinds of fee generations and other types of yields that are out there, it provided a really great refreshing turn from the old speculative reward tokens that danced down to zero over time, and you were trying to farm and cash out as much profit as possible. Now with real yield, as we call it, through perp dexes, it opened the gate to other types of mechanisms. That's a good way to get passive income. So for now, perps exclusively live in DeFi. Most DeFi platforms offer perps. It's a great way to get exposure without owning the actual asset. That's the other part that's really interesting, is that you don't have to own the asset spot. You can just own the perp and trade on the exposure. So that's something that a lot of people really enjoy. And because it's in a decentralized arena, we're not talking about Coinbase or Binance or any of these other CEXs. This is actually down in DeFi, with off-chain price oracles, or depending on how they have it, no oracles. And they're open 24/7. That's the beautiful thing about it. And this is why perps have become so popular, and why there is a flippening with both CEXs and DEXs, regular perp DEXs, and how they're going to move forward. So, let's see. Unfortunately, the way I must have prompted this based on, and the reason why I use Notebook LM is that I could have used the existing perp dex deck that we have, but it's older and a little bit dated, so I want a little bit of a fresher look. So Notebook LM is actually quite good at stuff like this. If you open a notebook in Notebook LM, feed it a bunch of different sources. I have all of the decks we've ever done. I've also done this talk multiple times here on Beat the Banks, as well as in multiple calls in our mastermind, in workshops as well. So all of those transcripts are all fed to create this, and I must have prompted to say, talking about Hyperliquid, which is currently the premier perp dex that's out there. It's definitely the largest by volume, in excess of, I think, 2 billion at this point, in terms of TVL for Hyperliquid. And a lot of reason we're talking about this is specifically about a protocol on the Hyperliquid Hyper EVM ecosystem called Markets.xyz from the HIP3 initiative through Kinetic Markets. So they have a specific perp, and we'll look at it in just a little bit, called US Oil, that will allow you to trade on the price of a specific, I'm guessing it's a specific type of, maybe it's WTI crude, not exactly sure exactly what, but it is the oil barrels that people are looking at right now, that people are trading on from a commodity standpoint. Being able to have access to that and speculate on the exposure, that is probably something that a lot of people are very interested in. So that's the reason why perps are popular. You don't have to own the asset spot. You can just own the perp and long, short, take leverage, all that type of good stuff. So the reason why Hyperliquid is popular, and other perp dexes like it are popular, because they're fully decentralized, they are permissionless, and they use a 24/7 trading engine. One thing too about the majority of these perp dexes, they use USDC as the trading collateral, and that's a wonderful thing. Some use USDT, just depends on which one you use. There are in excess of 12 to 15 quite good perp dexes that are out there. Most of them are order book dexes, just as a heads up. But you don't have to worry about being licensed, going through brokers like you would have at a regular traditional exchange. These are specifically able to be taken by anybody in the DeFi space. And just to kind of speak to their evolution, originally, and it still is technically, Hypercore is a Cosmos Layer 1 with Arbitrum Layer 2 as a front end with bridging happening in the background. Now, it's a very performant Layer 1 blockchain. I think it's in excess of 100,000 TPS. specifically for Hypercore. Hyperliquid, well, what's called Hyper EVM, is a smart contract EVM compatible blockchain that is bolted onto the side of Hypercore, or what's called Hyperliquid Core. And they're both underpinned by a foundation called their Hyper BFT consensus. So the really beautiful thing about being with Hyperliquid and Hypercore is that with Hyper EVM and all the smart contract things that can happen there, they get access to every asset that's available in Hypercore. So that's a huge advantage for Hyper EVM, and it's a reason why we have always been super bullish on Hyper EVM since their launch last year in March. Yeah, March 2025. So with that said, there's been some really interesting concepts that have been pushed through governance. HIP-3 specifically is builder perps. And what that means is as long as an entity can come up with a specific amount, and in this case it's 500,000 hype, they can create their own perp dexes using Hypercore strategies or Hypercore infrastructure, which actually is very performant and very good. And that's where markets.xyz, Hyena, and a couple others are taking advantage of that. So that's why there's just a lot of bullishness, and that's HIP-3, HIP-4, and there's even HIP-5 and HIP-6 now. HIP-4 is actually prediction markets that are going to be coming to Hyperliquid. So really excited to see that in the next couple of months make its way to mainnet for outcomes and the ability to take perps on them. So if they don't have dates for options, how do you actually maintain proper funding rate arbitrage? And this is where Premia comes in. So the idea is that in order to hold a long or a short position on a perp, you're going to have to either pay or be paid to hold it. It's one of these fun things where there's the premium is what maintains the market and helps keep everything in balance. It tells you exactly right here how that formula works. It's very straightforward. So when the markets are hot, longs pay shorts. When the markets are bearish, shorts pay longs. And it can be with every single perp asset that's out there. It can be different for quite a few. Both the open interest and also the funding rates can also be speculated on, thanks to groups like Boros, which is part of Pendle. One of my personal favorite ways to also look at different types of yield. Again, that's way out of the scope of this. It's a much more advanced topic, I would say, funding rate speculation, but it's out there for people who are interested in that. With our Beat the Banks community trainings, they're meant more for people who are curious about crypto, curious about blockchains, don't know a ton, and just talking about how this works and how you can easily get educated on how you can get into this. So there you go. So yeah, it's very straightforward. And funding rate premium is what keeps everything in balance. It depends on the perp dex how often you have to pay the funding rate premium. It could be every 24 hours, it could be every 8 hours, it could be every hour. It just depends on the perp dex. So, do I really want to talk about this? I mean, this is the reason why Hyper EVM is so powerful. So yeah, maybe I guess this is this is an ad for Hyper EVM and markets for sure. This is the beauty of being able to have a perp dex with a smart contract EVM compatible layer on the side, is that you have the ability to do delta neutral hedging, right? So let's say you're farming on Hyper EVM, you're doing an ETH USDT 0 position on, say, Project X. Shout out to the team at Project X, doing a concentrated liquidity position. You can also then, because you're always going to be farming that long, right? You don't really short farm assets in general. So then you can go to take out the short position on Hyperliquid at the perp dex to balance that, and that way you can always be winning in some way. Now, of course, there is the funding premium rate you have to pay, but in general, if you have the right farm on Hyper EVM, you're taking the proper amount of incentive risk, which would include things like an impermanent loss, incentives, fees, and you're hoping to outpace that. So you will have to, work and maintain to make sure that you are in balance. But in general, you should be up over time, specifically in delta neutral plays. With that said, there are multiple protocols now on HyperEVM that just offer delta neutral coins, where you deposit stable coins and then they'll go out and make delta neutral bets for you, and you just get the yield off of it. And that can be anywhere between 3 to, I've seen them as high as 50%. It just depends. But it's a really good way to look at it, because especially in markets where right now we're either going to be super volatile or super sideways, which I think is actually a little bit of both, this is the time where delta neutral can be a really helpful tool for farming. So if you're not familiar with delta neutral hedging, this is an interesting market to do it. So take a look at it. I've already talked about HyperEVM, so yeah, this is literally just an ad for HyperEVM. I apologize. I was thinking that we were... There we go. Yeah, so we already talked about HIP3, which is with markets. It's really not, frankly, it's not that complicated. Shout out to HyperUnit. HyperUnit is a way to bring in native BTC, ETH, and Sol into HyperEVM, mainly because they are not, specifically in the case of BTC, it's not a DeFi native asset. You generally have to have a derivative or wrapped version of BTC in DeFi to use it, because it's never been architected to do that. Now, there's always people looking to get yield on BTC, and there are multiple ways to do that. So HyperUnit is one of them. You'll just deposit or bridge over from your native BTC account into HyperUnit using their bridges, and they'll custody your asset for you. And then while they do that, they'll actually mint you a wrapped asset. In this case would be UBTC for HyperUnit's BTC. And then you can do a variety of things with it. One thing that I think is really popular is you can go to one of the AMMs, the automated money markets that are on HyperEVM, such as Hyper or Felix. There's a couple that are out there. Aave, even Morpho. And you can just park your UBTC and then borrow stable coins against it, and then go and take out your hedge, that type of thing. And the great part is that generally when you're supplying UBTC, you will be paid a specific percentage to supply that asset. And then so you will have to pay a borrower's APR to borrow against it, but generally it's fairly low, could be as low as like 3 to 4%. And then you just have to find a stable coin, in this case, since you're borrowing stablecoins, find a stablecoin farm that is in excess of that, and you're already ahead paying off your loan over time. So these are things that are available in DeFi, give you flexibility, give you what we like to call composability, money Legos, where you can go and deposit your digital assets and then go across and go through multiple strategies, which is the beauty of DeFi overall. And based on something I was just reading before I came online, self-custody is the true freedom point of all this that I think people need to look at and be very I'm going to say in awe of, but I'm not even thankful for. Just an opportunity to take advantage of, right? Because when you have self-custody, you do have that true freedom. Unlike what and I forgot to start my streams. Oh, shout out to everybody on the arena. Shout out to everybody on Den Show. Again, talking about self-custody, you have the freedom to be in a situation where you're not beholden to someone else. Like I just noticed that there's a lot of red flags because at BlackRock, they're putting a cap on how much you can call on your capital. Well, what did you expect? They're not going to let you, if you put your money in there, they're not just going to let you take all of it out in one go, right? Because it could start a run of some sort. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. If you're in a world of permissionless, operations and self-custody, you can do that because it's all about your keys, your crypto. In that system, that is not your keys, your crypto. It is you just have to wait till that money can be available. Whereas here, you get to be your own advisor, you get to be your own bank, and you get to decide where your money is going. So let me see what else we have here. Let's talk about this specifically with regards to perp dexes, because they are smart contract pieces. Even though that you're just doing for the most part trading, you still have smart contract vulnerabilities due to parts of the markets that do have smart contracts. In the case of Hyperliquid, they do have user community vaults, and with regards to user community vaults, we're looking at a situation where you're technically copy trading into a vault, and you're providing liquidity for someone else to do positions to do various strategies using. You have to be very aware of the fact that this can be exploited. There's what we call what is the word that I'm looking for? This tongue injury is just killing me today. I apologize. Well, it's counterparty risk. Thank you. My goodness. Counterparty risk just means the person on the other side of the trade can go bye-bye, and then your money is toast. So just remember that with smart contract vulnerabilities, you're layering smart contract risk when you do anything in DeFi. So keep that in mind. Oracle dependencies, they use off-chain pricing oracles. There are some protocols that don't have oracles at all. It's all about through the streaming, through the premia that determine the price, which in some cases are interesting, and I'm not going to talk about them today, but can you manipulate off-chain oracles? Yeah, you sure can. But most of the perp dexes do have, I think, tripwires is the word I would use here, specifically on off-chain pricing oracles, to make sure that there aren't traders trying to manipulate the markets. Avi Eisenberg, he did this specifically with GMX, Mango Markets on Solana, and he tried to do it on Curve, and he got stomped a mud hole into him for doing so, because he technically isn't doing anything it's frowned upon, but now he's kind of paying the price for that. So one thing too, because you're in the position where you are in a position to be liquidated, these things happen. What I will say is that there are many perp dexes that have what's called ADL, or auto deleveraged liquidation. So you get partly liquidated in terms of your position being liquidated, especially if you're taking leverage. They're going to reduce your leverage into an area where your health factor is safe and not at risk of being liquidated. It's helpful because it means you're not going to be completely wiped in the event that something happens. But it also is, you don't know exactly how much you're going to be liquidated by, and you get to pay a penalty. Well, yeah, you're going to be paying a penalty as well, specifically for being, we're triggering the ADL. So keep that in mind. What I will say on that is it worked beautifully on October 10th, in a time where people were getting cascaded. Market makers just pulled their liquidity, and all kinds of crazy crap happened. When it came to liquidations and cascades and liquidation ADLs in DeFi, they all worked beautifully as we were expecting. CEXs were like scratching their heads. I don't know why our order books have shut down and why you can't withdraw money. DeFi, everything worked exactly to plan. Granted, nobody wants to get liquidated, but the processes of how that happened on 10/10 worked just fine. Obviously there were possibly a couple of hiccups with regards to the off-chain Oracle pricing on Hyperliquid, but overall the interruptions were very small, few and far between. So that's why we're fans of DeFi. And that's why this year is the year of integration, where TradFi is migrating their infrastructure to decentralized architecture, or what's here in DeFi. With that said, they still want controls. They want permissioned markets, and it's up to you if you want to use them. Just know that there are permissionless markets out there like Hyperliquid with fantastic yield-bearing mechanisms that you can take advantage of today. Anything else here? Yeah. It's such an ad for Hyper EVM. I didn't prompt it that way, but it must have taken it that way because I was talking about how Hyper EVM is leading the way for perp dexes. Okay, well, it is what it is. I unfortunately started the stream a little late for some other people, so just as a little catch up, we are talking about perp dexes today and what they mean. They're very straightforward. Basically, it's just taking positions on perps, which are like they're like options, except they don't have a date expiry. In order to keep them, you just have to continue to pay your funding rate premia. And as long as you're looking to do that, whether you're being paid to hold a long or a short position or paying for that position, as long as you continue to pay for that, you're fine. And as a liquidity provider, and this is the one thing I'll say on it, liquidity provision, if it's available, not all of them have liquidity provision, but as long as there is the idea for doing so, you can actually do really well. Because as a funding provider, as a liquidity provider, oftentimes, if you hold tokens or mint into particular projects, for example, I'll just use Jupiter with JLP, off of their perps, and they only have 3. It is what it is. You receive 70 to 75% of platform fees, which is great, right? That is the real yield that we're talking about. That is good for liquidity providers, and it just plays into this wonderful narrative of what we have of profiting off the behavior of other investors. So you can do both. That's the part that's important here that I want everyone to take away. Yes, you can trade perps and do all kinds of fun things in a decentralized manner. We can also take advantage of the idea of, taking out hedges. We're talking about delta neutral stuff. This is all available in DeFi. This is not necessarily something that you can find in traditional finance that you can easily access. Here, you get self-custody, access all that you want. Variety of assets. You have that freedom, you have that ability to play and figure out what strategy works best for your investment thesis, for your investment plan. All right, let's pull into what a perp dex looks like. There we go. Now, there are multiple perp dexes that are out there. I'll pull up a couple of examples. Let me pull up a couple more just so we have them available. And then I'll give you an example of I'll give you an example of one that sorry, I need to enter a code. And that is the key on stuff like this, is sometimes you just kind of have to do so. But in a world of agentic flows, we're in a situation where agents are going to be a big part of how perp dexes work. So let me grab two. Let me go two places. I mean, we'll start with markets, but um, okay. All right, let's pull it back up. All right, so this is Hyperliquid Core, what we call Hypercore. It's at hyperliquid.xyz. You will need to take a VPN vacation to go there, just as a heads up. Not sure how soon that changes, to be honest, and that's where Clarity Act comes in, right? Uh, but you will need to do so. And you can kind of see here, let me see if I can make the screen a little bit bigger. So you can kind of see some ideas here. This is for silver, and there are multiple, so this is HIP3. Let's go to Perps. And as you can see, there are multiple perps here. And actually what's cool about Hyperliquid Core is they involve a bunch of different markets that are now available thanks to HIP3, right? So Brent oil USDC, you can go and take a 20x leveraged perp on that. Get the mark, the Oracle price, and then open interest. You can see what the funding rate is here. Right now it is, well, it looks like there's a negative funding rate here, so you are having to be paid to, and probably because the market's going down, to take a long position. And then it looks like it's every hour. Yes, it's an every hour here on Hyperliquid. But there's some that are like 4 hours. There's some that are 8 hours. It just kind of depends. But if you want to be involved using this, you actually need to have USDC, native USDC. That is the digital currency that is used here. Even though they have their own, they currently they have their own native stablecoin USDH. USDC is what you need to fund your spot or perp account with, and you do so using Arbitrum. So Arbitrum is still the front door of Hypercore, which is cool. We'll look now at markets.xyz. Markets.xyz is, let me refresh this. It is what we call a HIP3 market, meaning it's a builder perp system. So they're not going to have all of the different perps that are available here on Hyperliquid. As you can see, there's tons. Like there's even some for Amazon, some for MicroStrategy, and some of these others. Now this is through XYZ. I'm guessing this is markets. .xyz. Let's see. No, must be a different XYZ. Oh, it's there's another one. But as you can see, they have Palantir stock that's tokenized. They have US tech stocks through an index. And this is, again, exposure. This is something that you may not find in traditional finance, right? And maybe there is, I'm not sure. But US oil is the perp that a lot of people are looking at. You can take up to 10x leverage on it. And you can see it's a different price than the Brent oil perp we were just looking at as well. Funding right now looks like it's positive. 3.85 in open interest. So, again, same thing. You need to... so because this is markets, this is utilizing Hypercore, whereas Hypercore, I believe, still uses USDC if you want to get in. On markets, they use USDH, which is great. That's cool. That's their native stablecoin. But you'll need to sign in, create an account. That's outside the scope of what we're doing today, but just kind of showing you, giving you an example of what the main perp decks that people are using specifically for oil and other commodities. And there are other markets here that are available at markets.xyz. Let's see, 500 largest using companies. This is this is probably the Russell 2000. No, it might be a smaller business index than that. Bond markets with T-bills, treasury bonds of 20 years or long, so it's long. And then some of these others. There's gold, there's silver. Yeah, so you have the ability to get leverage and exposure to a variety of different assets that are out there, which is really cool. That's the beauty of using perps. Shout out to everybody on the arena. That also is a perp dex on Avalanche. I haven't tried to trade perps there, but I know that they are available. Okay, let me move forward here. We'll look at another one. We're going to look at Avantis. This is on base. Avantis has the difference with Avantis is they actually allow you, because if we go to markets, all there is trade stats and leaderboard. There's no way to actually provide liquidity for these markets outside of just putting your money in. Whereas Avantis allows you to do so using their earn function. GMX is the same way, where you can either stake USDC or their native token called AVNT and earn yield on this, because you're helping secure the protocol, and they're going to give you pieces of every platform thing that's open, anything else that's going on with opening and closing of positions, funding rate premia. All those things can contribute. P&L liquidations, all of that goes back to people who invest in the platform, and that's why perp dexes are actually very attractive to a lot of people. So yeah, 10% for the Avantis LP vault. You deposit USDC, and as it says here, unlike in like JLP and some others, you receive 100% of trading fees and losses. So that's actually really, that for your savings accounts generally, 0.5%. To get 10% on your money, backing a perp dex with a lot of activity is good. And if you just go to trade, you can see the different perps that they have, and they have high leverage perps here. You can take 500x positions on BTC and ETH. And this is Avantis on base. Shout out to that team. And they have a whole bunch of different assets you can go into, whether it's tokenized Apple stock. That's also available, 25x leverage. And really, this is the part of trading within these markets that are going to be decentralized and permissionless that a lot of traders are very interested in. You don't have to go through a broker for this. This is you doing your own trading. So if you're a tinkerer, if you're a DIY person, Avantis and places like that, Hypercore, are always going to be really interesting places to go to give it a try. Plus, if you're on a lot of these platforms, specifically with Hypercore, and what a lot of people are doing is they're trying to, have volume, get results to also qualify for airdrops. Another big reason why people use these perp dexes. Speaking of airdrops, Aster is one, and I don't have my VPN on, but they're coming out with their own chain very soon. Yeah, let me see the. Yes, you're gonna let me see the market. That's fine. Thank you. I'm not trying to trade. And Aster is available on a couple different blockchains. They're on BNB, Ethereum, Arbitrum, and Solana. They are coming out with their own chain soon. Aster is. So people are trying to continue to go after the airdrops that are available. Aster USD, it's 70 cents right now. Interesting. But at one point, Aster was in the same conversation with Hyperliquid. Like, is this going to be the next big thing? Well, we'll see what happens after they launch their Aster chain, which I think they probably need just for better infrastructure. Nothing to knock against BNB, but BNB is a centralized blockchain. Let's be honest, they own all the validators, right? Hyperliquid's going the same way. Hyperliquid still owns all their validators, but that's going to be changing. They're working to decentralize that over time. BNB has been around since the dawn of time, and they have. I'm not going to speak on whether or not they're going to be decentralized that anytime soon, but Binance still owns all of that for the most part. So we'll see. They have a ton of perps that are available that you can take massive leverage on. Yeah, 200x here. They did have the 1001x terminal, and that's for like some of the, and I saw that at Token last year, right? They had it was almost like esports where they had 1001x leverage, and people could go, and investors could go in to try and to get the best results on like 1 in 5 second time horizons. If you're looking on Solana, Drift will still be a really great option for you. Yeah, they have a ton of different perps that are available. They also have a ton of vaults that can actually be used in conjunction with that. And most of these are going to be Solana based because this is here. At one point they used to have, well, I don't know if they still have it. They had a they must have taken it down. They had one called Bet, which I'm sad about because honestly, maybe they just didn't have the resources. But Drift was one of the first groups to have a prediction market, and you were able to hedge against your bets because they were tokenizing the outcomes. So let me head back this way. Variational, shout out to the team at Variational. And then we'll talk about VDEX. Shout out to the team at VDEX. Shout out to Mick and to Jose and the team there. We've had Jose on our TVL podcast on Wednesday. They're up over $5 billion in trading volume. Congrats, guys. That's a huge milestone. What's great about VDEX is that they use zero knowledge proofs. There's no gas. There's no KYC because they use a different mechanism for their perps, which is dark pools. So you don't have to have KYC if you're looking for that. So if that's something that's important to you, maybe consider trying VDEX. I think you may enjoy the experience. I don't have an affiliate link. I should probably have one to shill to you, but they have all the perps that you could really need here with the proper leverage available, mostly in crypto. Do they have some traditionals? They do. There's a couple here, but they're growing. That's what's happening soon. They have some other things that they have a virtual market maker. I'm not going to talk about that today. Anyway, bunch of different ones that you can try. There's plenty out there. There's a lot of volume that goes through perp dexes, and a lot of people really enjoy the experience. So I just named 6, 7 that you can go into. What I will say about Hyperliquid, if you're there, if you go to vaults, this is where your community vaults are. They have these user vaults. So you have this regular HLP that is done by the team, and it's not yielding all that great. But they have these user vaults, meaning that, like for example, this one 500 to 1 million, they're up 1,455% with 110K in TVL into the vault. 533 days. You can see the snapshot on the return on that. So if you're looking at copy trade as opposed to actually doing this yourself, you're actually not technically copy trading. You're actually depositing into a vault, and they get 90% of your liquidity to go and make some trades. So you can see here, this is all that they currently have open. 20x long on Sol, 40x long on BTC, and a 10x long on Hype. And they're in the money. On this one. Eesh. Entry price, that's not terrible. Entry price at 85. And these are long positions. So anyway, if you're interested in learning more about trading in a decentralized platform, I know there are a lot of people in the audience who like doing options. That's great. But if you don't like dealing with dates, consider using perps. I think you might enjoy it. If anything, just give it a try to diversify the bag, because you shouldn't have everything in one strategy. Whether you're doing options, perps, zero DTEs, whatever is out there, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. What's great about doing it in DeFi is because you actually have the ability through things like delta neutral strategies, using Hyper EVM, liquidity provision, variety of things that are out there, so you can actually passively earn with your profits while you are trading. And that's something that a lot of investors don't do in this space. They'll just trade. And then when you ask, how are you doing? Are you round tripping your profits? Do you have profits? What are you doing with those profits? If they're not passively farming them, frankly, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. We have multiple people in our group who literally just use stablecoin profits from their trades into stablecoin farms to pay for capital gains, profits, all kinds of things. These are all available to you when you're out here in this space. With that said, I'm going to pull up our free group, school.com/beacon. And this is our free group. If you're interested, if you found value in today's presentation on perp dexes, please join us here at Total Value Lock. Join the many who have. We just passed 2 years in existence. We were February 20th, 2024. So we have passed 2 years here on the school platform. Check out our Start Here post. You can get a message from myself and then our CEO, Andrew. You can learn more about our content. We have plenty of free content, but if you want to make that first dollar in DeFi within 48 hours, if you want the one-on-one mentoring, if you want to be part of a group that's the best of the best in DeFi, definitely check out our Beacon Mastermind, our Beacon Challenge, and even our Beacon Spotlight, where we try and get you the best rates in all of DeFi every single week. Shout out to our Beacon Mastermind founding members, our current Beacon Mastermind members, our challengers, and our Spotlight subs for all that you do to help make this possible. Thank you so much for your patronage and believing what we do to provide great value for you here in DeFi. If you found great value, period, please feel free to spread the word. We're always looking for new members to be a part of the community, and just tell us what you're looking for. Perp dexes are a really great way to kind of scratch that itch, right? If you're looking for trading, and it's very, very performant. I will say, just doing perps and spot trades on Hyperliquid, it's a fantastic experience. It's fast, it's quick, easy to move money back and forth, easy to move money from Hypercore over. It's not here. From Hypercore over to Hyper EVM. It actually is very painless, very seamless, which is great. And they also have things like Telegram bots and stuff like that are available to really just manage your position and do it from the palm of your hand. With that said, they don't have a mobile first app, I guess would be, or experience outside of the Telegram bot. So I would say, if you're looking to, hopefully there'll be a team that will take the charge and take the lead on more mobile operations on Hyper EVM, because that's going to be the killer, honestly. Because outside of prediction markets, perp dexes are still hot, especially with what we're seeing now, being able to check out the U.S. oil perp on markets.xyz. Shout out to them. This is not an ad, by the way. I just remember seeing the upward movement over the last 24 hours and thinking, maybe people would like to learn more about how perps can be very helpful to them in this situation. So this is something you're interested in, please check out the video. Send it to anybody you know who's a trader, and they want to learn more about decentralized markets and self-custody, and doing this themselves without going through some type of brokerage house and paying all those fees when you can do it yourself. That's the power of doing it in these markets. Not really trying to sell anybody on it, but if you can do it yourself, why don't you? Right? That's really the selling point. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you found great value in today's presentation on perps. They're a really great instrument. Really good at just bridging TradFi to DeFi, and what's going to be part of the engine moving forward. So I've been happy to bring that to you. Again, I'm Chris, the DeFi professor, and trying not to sneeze. Try not to sneeze. We do this. We do this every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing this show, Beat the Banks, since January of 2022. Also, check out Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, for our Total Value Locked podcast. We've been doing that since December 2021. Trying to educate you on all the great things that are out there with regards to the news, helping you interpret that with our panel that happens every week to help you stay educated and prepared in this space, which is so important. So we'll see you next week for another episode of Beat the Banks. Till then, take care. Have a great weekend. 07. Peace. Beacons up. Banks down. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.